Check in.
Together, we are Jalen and Jacoby. What do?
We get a people!
Yes! Yes! Are you okay? Are you okay?
What they want.
You're going to pass out one day, Jalen Rose. I'm so excited for this show. There is so much to discuss. The number one thing to discuss, Jalen Rose, it finally happened. Jimmy Butler, no longer on the Minnesota Timberwolves. He wasn't traded to the Clippers. He wasn't traded to the Heat. In a surprise twist, he was traded to the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers traded him for Covington, Saric, and a future second-round pick. Jalen Rose, how does Jimmy Butler change the Sixers?
A few ways. The Philadelphia 76ers now are a legitimate Eastern Conference contender by adding Jimmy Butler. They're not the favorite, however, but it gets them closer. When you don't draft well, yes, they hit home runs with Embiid and Simmons. But let's not forget, they also took Michael Carter-Williams, Okafor.
Just say his name. Just say his name.
Markelle Fultz.
Markelle Fultz.
Okay, and when you lose in the asset department and then you not only draft Markelle, but you gave up a first-round pick to get him, it hampers what you can do going forward versus a team in your same conference in the Boston Celtics that have drafted well and created assets. So as I watch Philadelphia, they got 3 of the best 6 players in the East.
Let me think about that.
Just think about it. And I'm speaking, and the other guys in the conversation are Kyrie, Greek Freak, and Kawhi. They got 3 of the best 6 players in the East. But you know what I love about basketball? That still don't make them the favorite.
Why is that? They've got a legitimate big 3.
They got a legitimate big 3. Probably only the Golden State Warriors can boast that.
We talked about this before the show. I think there are only 2 big 3s in basketball right now. And only 2 legitimate big 3s.
And that's fair to say. So now Philadelphia has catapulted themselves not only back in the contention conversation, but also the conversation of next big team that's going to get people to come play with them conversation.
Oh, I like this angle.
No doubt about it, because now when you look at Ben Simmons, who's unselfish, and a point guard at 6'10", and Joel Embiid, who's going to get me 20 and 10 and a couple of blocks and make threes, and Jimmy Butler is a lockdown defender that's going to also be clutch and give me 20-plus points, players are not going to want to play with them.
So here's the thing, though. First, Jimmy Butler has to convince the Sixers that the Sixers want to play with him. You know what I mean? So what's happening now is he's a free agent at the end of this year. He has a history of having, I wouldn't say trouble, but having concerns about some of his young teammates and voicing those concerns. He has a history of being just not the warmest, friendliest fella in the locker room. So the Sixers can give him the max at the end of this year. And it is expected that they gave away Saric and Covington because they plan to do so. Is he going to be on his best behavior? Is Jimmy Butler going to, I don't know, maybe swallow some of his real thoughts about his young teammates so he can get the max? I have the feeling that at the end of this year, he's going to sign the deal, and he's going to tell everybody what he thinks about him. That's how this is going to go. He's going to sign the deal. He's going to be like, come here, Joel Embiid. I'm deleting your Twitter account. No more Shirley Temple for you. Ben Simmons, you got to get in the gym. You got to get a jump shot the second he signs the contract. I mean, I see it playing out like that. Like this is like an audition year for him, and he's going to be on his best behavior.
And shout out to Elton Brand, who got this deal done so early in his first year as the GM. I understand what you mean about Butler, but look at it like this. Embiid and Simmons are better than Karl-Anthony Towns and Wiggins.
Oh, no question about it.
Okay?
No one's going to refute that.
And he gets to play with them in the East.
I know.
That's the conference that doesn't have the Golden State Warriors, which has you look on a piece of paper and say, okay, the Celtics are legit. The Raptors are legit. The Bucks are playing well. But now they're legitimately a part of that conversation. Now, just like any team, this is what I love about the game. They have weaknesses.
Oh, yeah. They gave away 2 of their shooters, and, you know, they got Jimmy Butler back, but they need a shooter.
Yes. I don't think they're done tinkering with their team, and I got a wild card here. Well, 2. Number 1, J.J. Redick is going to start to play better, get more minutes, and definitely deserves to be in the starting lineup. But you know when they're trying to feature guys. So clearly they were featuring Saric, featuring Covington, and trying to feature Fultz, but they realized they're stuck with him.
No one's taking Fultz.
But here's a wild card.
They could have added Fultz to that trade in Minnesota and be like, no, we're good. Don't worry about it.
Wilson Chandler. It's going to be a wild card that nobody talks about in this dynamic. They're going to be able to put four players on the floor that can switch everything with J.J. Redick. That's what I anticipate happening. When things get tough for Philadelphia and or it's crunch time, their best lineup on paper already for me, J.J. Redick, Simmons, Embiid, Butler, Wilson, Chandler.
Interesting.
He's going to play well with them. He hasn't really gotten the opportunity, dealt with some injuries earlier in the year. I think he's going to now elevate his game and be a rotation player.
Do you think that they add another shooter? You said they're not done tinkering with the lineup because J.J. Redick, knockdown shooter. You know, and obviously, you know, Jimmy Butler can shoot threes. Ben Simmons, not a shooter, like literally doesn't shoot threes.
So here's my hate-love for the league as a player that was once bought out. When Tyson Chandler's still in uniform for Phoenix and we already know he's going to L.A.
Oh, yeah.
So what's going to happen is what's happening with Kyle Korver. Start to look at all of the teams that are struggling, that have veterans with not so favorable deals to the team. Those guys now become buyout candidates. And so there will be people, there will be shooters, there will be opportunities to fill your roster if you're the Philadelphia 76ers.
And again, big shout to Elton Brand. There's nothing like you know, he's just getting the office set up, putting things on the wall in his office, and he's already got a big win. It's a great way to start at that new position. So let's now move the conversation away from the Sixers to the Eastern Conference as a whole.
Now I'm going to show you how the East Coast rock.
I had the Sixers as like the fourth team in the Eastern Conference, and that changes now. How do you have the pecking order of the top four teams in the Eastern Conference? My condolences to all Pacers fans and Wizards fans.
A blank canvas. I still have to say the Boston Celtics because I did see them make it to the conference finals without Kyrie Irving last year, and he's back.
Okay.
Gordon Hayward still struggling. The Toronto Raptors
look great.
Kyle Lowry has improved his playmaking, getting me double-figure assists
Everything
now.
I ever said about Kyle Lowry was wrong.
And obviously they have Kawhi Leonard. The Sixers are third based on what we just discussed. And don't dismiss the Milwaukee Bucks. They probably have the best player not only in the conference, but a front runner, gonna be one of the top players as it relates to like all NBA consideration.
Of course.
In the Greek Freak, I appreciate how Lopez has reinvented himself as a player that would post
really
up,
shoot threes.
that can now really shoot threes,
as we saw over the weekend. And quietly, no one talks about this. Malcolm Brogdon has really improved from last year.
Yes.
Malcolm Brogdon has been playing really well this year, and obviously Chris Middleton is having a little breakout year, going to be an all-star.
Absolutely. So those are the teams. Indiana's going to be in the conversation beyond that, but those are the top four teams in the conference.
So when I look at this, I just think, are the 76ers going to give Jimmy Butler this deal? Because that's, I think, for now it's not. When you see Paul George in a contract year, is he going to stay? Is Anthony Davis going to stay? What's going to happen with KD? Like, those are kind of obvious questions, but this one's a little different. It's like, are the Sixers going to want to give him 5 years, $190 million? Do you think that's a done deal?
I'm going to give you a different way to look at it. Yes is the answer to that question.
Okay.
Because of what I said to begin this conversation. They're in the same conference as the Boston Celtics, who, when you look at their roster, they're set now. When you look at their assets, they're set for the future.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be able to continue to have what it takes to bring in other great players that they see have potential to build on what they've done. So if you're going to be in a conference with them, you got to now go after the best players. And so that's what Philly's able to do. We have Simmons, we have Embiid, we have Butler. We have three of the top six players in this conference. That makes us a legitimate contender. Now, building out the roster, supplementing your weaknesses, getting shooters, all of that type of thing is going to come with it. But you definitely pay Butler because you already paid Covington $70. You traded him. You wasn't going to give a big deal ultimately to Saric. So you save that money and you give it to Jimmy Butler. And that's what Minnesota was thinking. Now, I don't think Minnesota did good in this trade, but let me tell you this. What they were thinking was, we're not a destination spot for free agents.
No.
So I want to get a guy that's already under contract.
Covington.
In Covington, that's a 3-and-D guy.
He's a prototypical 2018 NBA role player. Like,
no
he's
question.
Exactly what you want right now in the NBA. You're not going to have 5 stars to be your starting 5. I love Covington as your 4th best player in your 5.
And he's Tibbs kind of guy, self-made like Jimmy Butler was, came out of the D-League. And then Saric is a big that can shoot threes and stretch the floor. You put him alongside Karl Anthony Towns. He's still on a rookie deal. I have assets as the coach that's also the GM that can put players out there, and Minnesota's actually going to be better.
You think so?
Have you seen Minnesota play this season?
I've seen him play with Jimmy Butler.
Okay, they're going to be better without Butler. These guys are going to give you more points. They're going to give you more three-pointers, and they're going to give you the opportunity to allow Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins to flourish who they want to build a team around.
What did Karl Anthony Towns text Andrew Wiggins when he found out that Jimmy Butler was officially traded?
He's like, you still getting the max? I'm still getting the max? He gone? Cool.
When we come back on Jalen Jacoby, the Patriots looked very pedestrian against the Titans. That and much more from the NFL right after this.
When you don't like someone, you go at them harder. I don't care what anybody says. That whole I go at my brother harder stuff, no, that's not accurate. If Larry Brown was driving to the hole, I would foul him different than Juwan Howard.